Hello my friends, welcome back to Storytime with Annie. Today's story is The Accords of Madness. 16 Accords of Madness. Malakat's Tale. In the days before the Oceanium's founding, the spurned orc folk were subjected to ostracism and persecutions even more numerous and harsh than their progeny are accustomed to in our own age. So it was that many champions of the Orishima travelled, enforcing what borders they could for the proliferation of their own people. Many of these champions are spoken of yet today, amongst them the cursed legion Groma the Hearless and the noble Emeg Grokaira. This latter crusader would have certainly risen to legendary status throughout Tamriel had he not been subject to the attention of certain Daedric princes. Emeg Grokaira was the bastard son of a young maiden who was killed in childbirth. He was raised by the shaman of his tribe, the Grillicamog, in the peaks of what we now call Norma Heights. Late in his 15th year, Emeg forged by hand an ornate suit of scaled armour, a rite of ascension amongst his tribe. On a blustery day he pounded the final rivet and draped the heavy cloak over the bulky mantle. Emeg set out from his village for the last time. Word of his exploits always returned home, whether defending merchant caravans from brigands or liberating enslaved beast folk. News of the noble orc crusader began to grace even the lips of Bretons, often with a tinge of fear. Less than 2 years after ascending to maturity, Grokaria was making camp when a thin voice called out from the thickening night. He was surprised to hear the language of his people spoken by a tongue that obviously did not belong to an orc. "Lord Kyra," said the voice, "tales of your deeds have crossed the lips of many and have reached my ears." Peering into the murk, Emeg made out the silhouette of a cloaked figure, made weary and ephemeral by the hazy campfire. From the voice alone he had thought the interloper an old hag, but he now decided that he was in the presence of a man of slight and lanky build, though he could discern no further detail. "Perhaps," the weary orc began, "but I seek no glory. Who are you?" Ignoring the question, the stranger continued, "Despite that, Orishima, glory finds you, and I bear a gift worthy of it." The visitor's cloak parted slightly, revealing nothing but faintly glistening buttons in the pale moonlight, and a bundle was withdrawn and tossed to the side of the fire between the two. Emeg cautiously removed the rags in which the object was swathed, and was dazzled to discover the item to be a wide carved blade with ornately decorated handle. The weapon had heft, and Emeg realized on varnishing it that the elaborate pommel disguised the more practical purpose of balancing the considerable weight of the blade itself. It was nothing much to look at in its present condition, thought the orc, but once the tarnish was cleaned away and a few missing jewels restored, it would indeed be a blade worthy of a champion 10 times his own worth. "Her name is Neb Crescent," spoke the thin stranger, seeing the appreciation lighting Grokaira's face. "I got her for a horse and a secret in warmer climes, but in my old age I'd be lucky to even lift such a weapon. It's only proper that I pass her on to one such as yourself. To possess her is to change your life forever." Overcoming his initial infatuation with the arc of honed steel, Emeg turned his attention back to the visitor. "Your words are fine, old man," Emeg said, not masking his suspicion. "But I'm no fool. You traded for this blade once, and you'll trade for it again tonight. What is it that you want?" The stranger's shoulders slumped, and Emeg was glad to have unveiled the true purpose of this twilight visit. He sat with him a while, eventually offering a stack of furs, warm food, and a handful of coins in exchange for the exotic weapon. By morning the stranger was gone. In the week following Emeg's encounter with the stranger, Neb Crescent had not left his scabbard. He had encountered no enemy in the woods, and his meals consisted of fowl and small game, caught with a bow and arrow. The peace suited him fine, but on the 7th morning, while fog still crept between the low-hanging boughs, Emeg's ears perked up at the telltale crunch of a nearby footfall in the dense snow and forest debris. Emeg's nostrils flared, but he was upwind. Being unable to see or smell his guest, and knowing that the breeze carried his scent in that direction, Emeg's guard was up and cautiously drew Neb Crescent from his sheath. Emeg himself was not entirely sure of all that happened next. The first moment of conscious memory in Emeg Grokaira's mind, after drawing Neb Crescent, was the image of the curved blade sweeping through the air in front of him, splattering blood over the virginal powder coating the forest floor. The second memory was a feeling of frenzied bloodlust creeping over him, but it was then he saw for the first time his victim, an orc woman perhaps a few years younger than himself, her body a canvas of grisly wounds enough to kill a strong man 10 times over. Emeg's disgust overwhelmed the madness that had overtaken him, and with all his will enlisted he released Neb Crescent from his grip and let the blade sail. With a discordant ringing, it spun through the air and was buried in the snowdrift. Meg fled the scene in shame and horror, drawing the hood of his cloak up to hide himself from the judging eyes of the rising sun. The scene where Meg Gokira had murdered one of his own kind was a macabre one. Below the neck, the body was flayed and mutilated, almost beyond recognition, but the untouched face was frozen in permanent expression of abject terror. It was here that Shirogorov performed certain rites that summoned Malakath, and the two Daedric lords held court in the presence of the disfigured corpse. "Why show me this mad one?" began Malakath, once he recovered from his initial wordless outrage. "Do you take such pleasure in watching me grieve the murder of my children?" His guttural voice rumbled, and the patron of the Orishima looked upon his counterpart with accusing eyes. "By birth she was yours, brother outcast," began Shirogorov, solemn in aspect and demeanour, "but she was a daughter of mine by her own habits. My mourning here is no less than your own, my outrage no less great." "I'm not so sure," grumbled Malakath, "but rest assured that vengeance of this crime is mine to reap. I expect no contest from you. Stand aside." As the fearsome prince began to push past him, Lord Shirogorov spoke again. "I have no intention of standing between you and vengeance. In fact, I mean to help you. I have servants in this wilderness and can tell you just where to find our mutual foe. I ask only that you use a weapon of my choosing. Wound the criminal with my blade, and banish him to my plane, where I can exact my own punishment. The rights of honor killing here belong to you." With that, Malakath agreed, took the wide blade from Shirogorov, and was gone. Malakath materialized in the path of the murderer, the cloaked figure obscured through a blizzard haze, bellowing a curse so foul as to wilt the surrounding trees. The blade was drawn, and Malakath crossed the distance more quickly than a wild fox. Frothing with rage, he swung the blade in a smooth arc which lopped the head of his foe cleanly off, then plunged the blade up to its hilt in his chest, choking off the spurts of blood into a steady growing stain of red bubbling from beneath the scaled armor and heavy cloak. Panting from the unexpected immediacy and fury of his own kill, Malakath rested on a knee as the body before him collapsed heavily backwards, and the head landed roughly upon a broad, flat stone. The next sound broke the silence like a bolt. "I'm sorry," spluttered the voice of a Meg Gokira. Malakath's eyes went wide as he looked upon the severed head, seeping blood from its wound, but somehow kept alive. Its eyes wavered about wildly, trying to focus on the aspect of Malakath before it. The once proud eyes of the champion were choked with tears of grief, pain, and confused recognition. To his horror, Malakath recognized only now that the man he had killed was not only one of his Alzheimer children, but very literally a son he had blessed an orc maiden with years hence. For achingly long moments the two looked upon each other, despondent and shocked. Then, silent as oiled steel, Shirogorov strode into the clearing. He hefted Meg Gokira's disembodied head and bundled it into a small grey sack. Shirogorov reclaimed Neb Crescent from the corpse and turned to walk away. Malakath began to stand, but kneeled again, knowing he had irreversibly damned his own offspring to the realm of Shirogorov, and mourned his failure as the sound of his son's hoarse pleas faded into the frozen horizon. Wow. That was a sad tale. I hope you enjoyed listening. Please like and subscribe for more content. Thank you for watching.